Alright, what's going on, guys, and welcome to another episode for the In the Hot Seat podcast. And in this week's episode, I will be talking about not only WWE NXT Takeover 30, but WWE SummerSlam, a doubleheader once again. And I feel like it's been quite a bit since I've done the last episode for the podcast and everything, so after this one, I want to be able to switch things up a bit, kind of like almost take a break from the wrestling talk and get into other stuff like I mentioned before previously. So maybe something like talking about the Jurassic Park series, especially with the upcoming movie that's coming up next year. I would like to talk about that. Um, just other random stuff too, as well, whatever comes to mind, and just to switch things up and to grow the podcast even more. So if you haven't already, definitely go check out the Facebook fan page as well, the In the Hot Seat uh, fan page as well. So I did recreate that, and I wasn't too sure what I was going to do with groups or not. Been debating on that, so I decided to keep that one. That makes a lot more sense. So anything in the hot seat related or any random stuff that you see on there, so you know it'll be basically something to look forward to. So there's that, a little cheap plug there. And with recently WWE, they're able to actually move out of their performance center, and that's been really refreshing. The performance center shows for a while were cool, but after a while it just got stale and boring and just felt the same basically. And now with a bit more of a change, even though it still probably feels the same, but it actually look a lot more themselves and everything, and being at the Amway Center, and they're calling themselves now with the arena, with the Thunderdome, and basically kind of like the NBA bubble if you follow basketball, and how they have things where they have kind of like a small setting and everything, and it looks cool, and it's like they're in their home arenas, but it's a smaller venue basically, and they have the giant screens where fans can actually participate, and it's kind of like in a way like being live at StreamYard or something like that and talking with friends, but you're there as a fan and everything. So they did something like that with the screens. It looks cool, and they had the actual stage back and everything, so it kind of looks like themselves a lot, and it looks very futuristic, which is interesting how that looks with the setup and everything. They have pyro back, which is great. I love that, and it just feels a whole lot better. So it's definitely a difference from what they were doing in the performance center, and I'm liking it. It feels like old times again. It feels like I was actually there. I seen it on SmackDown this week for the go home show for SummerSlam, but we're not really too much here for that. I just wanted to state that off, and just something that will be happening from now on and everything, and I thought it was cool to mention. So without further ado, getting into NXT Takeover 30, it's hard to believe that there has been 30 straight pay-per-views for NXT Takeover, and I like the setup with this one and everything, kind of like almost like the WrestleMania 30 setup, if you want to put it this way, but NXT style. And we have one show for the kickoff, one match to show on the kickoff, might I add, and for the tag team #1 contendership, and where we had Legado del Fantasma and as well Breezango, Oni Lockin, and Danny Burch to see who will face the NXT Tag Team Champions. Could have read really either or on this one, but I'm happy Breezango are able to get their win. I think it's a long time coming, especially when they're on the main roster and everything, so hopefully they will go back there over time. And they definitely do deserve that, so hopefully they'll get the tag team titles. Then we kick things off with Finn Balor and Timothy Thatcher on this one, basically a hard-hitting back and forth match between the two and everything. Timothy Thatcher, another person that I want to see more often, and he's actually shaping up to be pretty damn interesting and badass. Finn Balor actually was able to get the win, which is good there, so can't go wrong with that. And then we get into the ladder match, North American Championship on the line, of course, being vacated and let go by Keith Lee, and where we had Bronson Reed on this one, who I'm kind of keeping my eye on. He's kind of growing on me. Cameron Grimes definitely coming a long way since Impact Wrestling Damian Priest on this one, Johnny Gargano looking to gain back the North American Championship, and filled with Team Dream, which is weird seeing him despite what's been going on and everything with the whole speaking out movement and everything else. So I'm surprised he was able to be brought back and stuff. So I don't know what to believe anymore, but obviously I'm in full support of the speaking out movement with everything else that's been going on. But at least with this one, I'm happy that the right person did get to win, especially with all the 6 spots and everything. Each person having their chance to actually try and get the championship. And Damian Priest, who I'm really liking lately, and he's definitely been one of my favorites, so I'm happy he was able to get the North American Championship. And I'll be honest, with the next match, I wasn't really looking forward to it. Adam Cole and Pat McAfee and everything. I know a little bit of him with this podcast and everything else, but I didn't actually expect him to actually go out there, especially for NXT Takeover and as well one of their bigger shows for NXT Takeover 30, for him to actually go out there and wrestle. But I give him his props. He did some pretty interesting stuff as well, being creative in that and everything. But Adam Cole, at least he was able to give it to him and as well get the win. That's awesome. Then we get into the Women's Championship match. Io Shirai and as well Dakota Kai on this one. And basically, of course, we had Raquel Gonzalez coming back and everything. And her as the heel is the best kind. And it's been working really well. Her and Dakota Kai and Io Shirai didn't let the number games really actually affect her at all. It was like nothing to her. So that was making her seem like more of a badass on this one. So that's what also actually helped her retain to keep the Women's Championship, and looks like Rhea Ripley wants some of Raquel Gonzalez and a little bit of Io Shirai, and of course the NXT Women's Championship. So that should be interesting to see where that goes. And also on the update too, as the show is going on, they were able to announce the return of NXT UK, which is, thank God, it's been a long time since I can remember actually watching NXT UK since everything that went down, so which was understandable. So now they'll be looking to come back September the 15th, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been a long time since I've seen NXT UK on a Thursday night, so that's going to be something to look forward to. And of course, we got the main event, NXT Championship, Keith Lee, and as well Karrion Kross on this one. And basically, hard-hitting match, much like the first match of the night, and actually Karrion Kross and Keith Lee trying to outdo each other, going to the outside for a while, and just Karrion Kross also being dominant. Just what you thought Keith Lee was going to retain. Karrion Kross actually gets the championship, which is crazy. I'm not really mad at it either. And it's crazy what a year a difference it makes, because both Chris and I were able to actually see Karrion Kross at WrestleCade, and to see him for the first time there and everything, and meeting him, and to see him now in NXT and now NXT champion is pretty crazy. So, I'm happy where things are going for him and as well Scarlett. So, looks like he'll be facing Tommaso Ciampa, who's looking to return. Maybe a triple threat with Keith Lee. I don't know. There's possibilities with that. So, NXT Takeover, overall, good show and everything. I haven't really, again, like I said, seen a bad show. Either great to good at best, basically, on that. But with that being said, alright, so then from there we move on to WWE SummerSlam and getting right down into it, where we had only one kickoff match, where we had the United States Championship on the line between Apollo Crews and as well MVP. And MVP looking to gain back the United States Championship, basically in the way where he was able to recreate the new one and claiming himself as United States Champion. So he's basically trying to get it back that way fully. But to no avail, Apollo Crews was able to get the win to keep the United States Championship and be able to hopefully move on from MVP and the Hurt Business. Then we got the SmackDown Women's Championship match between Bayley and Asuka, and these two basically have been going at it for a while, back and forth as well, and Asuka trying to do everything that she can to get the win and be a double champion herself, but Bayley was able to have it come back, even though Sasha Banks was there trying to help out Bayley and everything, and Bayley was able to get the win and as well keep her SmackDown Women's Championship and being champion for a very long time actually. So that's pretty damn interesting on how long she's actually been champion for. So interesting stuff there. Then when we had the World Tag Team Championship match, we had the Street Profits and as well Andrade and Angel Garza. Actually, both of them working pretty well this time. Not so much arguments. Selena Vega at ringside and everything. Surprisingly, no Bianca Belair. I thought she would be there for the Street Profits, but that wasn't the case. And the Street Profits were able to come back and able to keep their Raw Tag Team titles. Then we had Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, but the change-up, which was supposed to be a hair versus hair match, now was a no disqualification. A loser leaves WWE on this one, and these two former tag team, formerly known as Fire and Desire, and with this one, I wasn't too sure how things were going to go out, especially with the change-up and everything, and with this one, it does make sense having Mandy Rose get the win and being able to still be with Otis and everything. And it sucks that Sonya Deville actually had to lose and leave, and I'm sure she'll be back within over time and stuff, take a break, especially everything that's been happening with her. So Mandy Rose gets her win. Then we have the street fight, Dominic Mysterio in his debut match, and as well Seth Rollins on this one. And this one being able to deal with the Seth Rollins dealing with Rey Mysterio and everything, trying to take out the eye Rey Mysterio basically did, which is still crazy as all hell. And of course Buddy Murphy was there at ringside, and Rey Mysterio, and as well Dominic's family, his mom and dad were there basically in full support. And I was really hoping Dominic Mysterio actually get some payback. He did, basically with the candlesticks and everything, and the shots that he has taken from Seth Rollins, which is insane previously before. But surprisingly, Seth Rollins actually defeating Dominic Mysterio. So in his first match and everything, it's pretty still surreal to see him actually wrestle and actually have a contract now. So trying to get used to that, but still props to him, and that's awesome. Then we had the Raw Women's Championship match. Asuka doing some double duty, of course this time it's Sasha Banks, and looking to try and right and wrong from the first match and everything. Sasha Banks and Asuka also going back and forth. Bayley's still there at ringside, and Asuka actually gets the Raw Women's Championship, which is fine. I like it better that way, even though yes, Sasha Banks should have won, but it does make sense having each of the women's championships on their respected shows. So I'm sure we'll be able to see these two go at it again for the Raw Women's Championship, so that's fine there. And then the WWE Championship, yes, the WWE title on the line. Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton, and from dealing with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, now dealing with another challenge in Randy Orton, and Randy Orton basically bringing back the Legend Killer gimmick, which is awesome there, and just being vicious and everything, trying to take down Drew McIntyre. These two ended up having a bloody brawl basically, which is crazy. When you thought Randy Orton was going to get the title and everything, said SummerSlam has been good to him. Unfortunately, not this time. And Drew McIntyre actually getting the win, so that's good. He gets to keep the WWE title. And then we get into the Universal Championship, the main event, Braun Strowman and The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and with this, basically, in a way, somewhat of a change between Braun Strowman anyway, and The Fiend just doing usual Fiend things, and trying to get into the mind of Braun Strowman, and more of a serious side of Braun Strowman, basically, trying to stop The Fiend, doing everything that he can, and it's been really difficult, especially whoever goes up against The Fiend just keeps going right back up. You can use anything and everything, but it won't be enough. But The Fiend actually gets the Universal title, gets his win. That's cool. I'm happy The Fiend is champion again. How long is that gonna last? Well, in the end, we did have a return. Pun intended, I did not see that coming. And we had the return of Roman Reigns just beating the holy hell at not only The Fiend, but also Braun Strowman, so maybe a future triple threat. I know we got Payback coming up, and even though it's not really needed a week right after SummerSlam, but it's whatever on that. So now there's some possibilities there with a triple threat match or The Fiend and as well Roman Reigns. So I don't think he would be coming back anytime soon with all the circumstances and what's going on in the world right now. So that was a nice return. I was hoping maybe we'd see other returns and stuff like that, but it was just Roman Reigns coming back and looking to be Universal Champion, and that's how SummerSlam goes off the air. And overall, actually a pretty good SummerSlam, if I do say so myself. That's just me. What are your thoughts? Obviously, we could talk about that on my Twitter at InTheHotSeat89 and as well for YouTube, and we'll discuss that as well there. So anyway, what are your thoughts on the whole SummerSlam weekend from NXT Takeover 30 for SummerSlam itself? And then we'll talk about that. So we'll see what happens there. So I'm going to try, like I said, switch things up for the podcast and talk about other things. And then maybe come back for a year-end review with the other half from Payback up until, who knows, maybe around Royal Rumble or something like that. And then do things differently that way. And try to switch things up. I don't know. We'll see. It depends. But we'll see what happens there. So until then, that about does it for this week's episode for the In the Hot Seat podcast. And as always, hopefully you guys are taking care of yourselves, staying safe, and I'll catch you guys in the next podcast, whatever the hell that next podcast may be.
Okay, forget it, I got it. You kids ain't really about it. I stay posh, I'm trying to go diamond. Okay, forget it, I got it. Okay, forget it, I got it. These boys ain't really about it. I stay side trying to overaccomplish. Okay, forget it, I got it. Don't worry, I got it for real. Don't worry, I'm honest as hell. Don't worry, I keep it a bill. Honestly, Phil, you finna go fail. So when you say my name, you better go chill. Never know when, you never know where, but chances are I run it in there. Something's weird, you shit in my tracks for a couple of years. Now you love it when you suckers appear. Think I got a motherfucking idea? Oh yeah, and I got another one here. Ain't forever, but you never compare. I just got this devilish stare to what my reflection said in the mirror. But after this, but they'll all be